Hello, it's Penny Megginson. Welcome to the Pain and Fatigue Management Workshop. And thank you so much for joining. And we'll go ahead and get started. So welcome. And I'm just going to get myself set up here. So I just wanted to give you a little bit of background about myself. So I'm originally a physiotherapist, and I've noticed that with a lot of my patients, there was this sort of mind-body connection, and this was, we're going 20 years back, and where people were never talking about this. And I found that if I could connect with my patients on a different level, just figuring out other things that were going on in their life, that seemed to almost help them in a better way than sometimes just the physio that I was trained to do was helping them. And I found this fascinating, and then later trained in NLP and emotional freedom technique and matrix reimprinting. I also studied nutrition, yoga, and Pilates, and started to combine all of these with all of my patients. And my real mission in life is I feel that no one should really suffer from these chronic symptoms, bad habits, negative thought patterns, because we all have control, a way of controlling our thoughts and our pain, actually, and to live a better life. And so that's what I want to talk about in this webinar tonight. I'm going to give you some specific techniques that you can start practicing and really feeling the benefits straight away. And it's a lot of information I'm going to go through tonight. So, feel free to send me an email with questions, comments, things like that. So my start, how did I get to come up with the Megginson method? I had a ski accident after having two kids, sort of, and 18 months apart. I gave up my business at the time, and I started training for this huge ski race that was going to be the biggest thing that I'd ever done. And I ended up having a ski accident. And I found every single doctor I spoke to wanted me to have surgery straight away. They said I'd never ski again, I'd never run again, my life was never going to be the same again. I became depressed, and I realized as I was lying on the couch feeling sorry for myself that I could either get off the couch and start really training, getting myself stronger and finding ways of getting better, or I could just stay there and, become more depressed. And it was in that moment that I realized that this is what so many of my patients were struggling with. And so I did get up and I did study all of these techniques and put it all together. And that's where I came up with this method. And I got myself better, and I did start skiing and running and getting back into all of these things. And I didn't have the surgery. And I went on to do this race that took six and a half hours. And I actually used a lot of the meditation and visualization during this race. So it's great as well for sports performance, because it does help you manage your pain tolerance and your ability to sort of combat that fatigue and fight the fatigue from setting in. So the problem that I find with traditional treatments and traditional medicine is that we're not really looking at the root cause of the issue, whether it's back pain or being overweight or having a very unhealthy lifestyle. There's a reason why we do all of these things. Like, we know that they're not good for us, but we can't help it. And it's because it's all up here. It's what's going on in your mind. And we need to work on those issues, the emotions connected to all of this unhealthy stuff that we're doing to ourselves. And that's the same issue when you've got any sort of chronic pain or chronic symptom. It's not just about treating that pain that you're in at that moment. It's about everything else that's going on around you and how you react to that. And that's why you can have really good days and you can have really bad days. And it doesn't necessarily have anything to do with your actual injury or condition. It's about the other stuff that's going on around you. And if you can change how you react to what's going on around you, because you can't always change what's going on around you. You're going to have stressful people around you, toxic people even, and you're going to have stressful situations and events coming in and out of your life. And it's your ability to stay calm and not let that stress take over so that your symptoms don't get worse. And that's what we're talking about here. And so the reason behind pain is there, we know that obviously there is a medical, clinical thing with pain. We know that we have pain receptors. They tell our brain that there's pain there. So I know for all of you who are suffering and have been suffering for a long time, and you've had lots of different types of treatment and nothing seems to be working for you. I'm not saying that you don't have real pain. I know that those issues, the fatigue that you're feeling, it's all very real. But what you can change is how you react to all the conditions around you that make that pain worse. And it's that perception of the pain that we're talking about. So you can have two people and they have the exact same diagnosis. Maybe they have a herniated disc in their spine. So they both have back pain, but one person is working and maybe she's a single mom and she's got 3 kids and she's running around, she's driving everywhere and she's doing all of these things, and maybe she's super social as well. And then you have somebody else with the exact same diagnosis, same level, same symptoms, all of that. Yet that person can barely get out of bed without pain medication. This person might not be able to go to work and they're now getting depressed, and maybe now they're on antidepressants and now they're having side effects from that. And then maybe they're not sleeping at night, and so then they're having to take sleeping pills, and you can see how this becomes a vicious cycle. So what I found fascinating when I was doing physio was how can we make this person who's really suffering be able to enjoy the same quality of life as the person who also has the same diagnosis but seems to be coping in a different way or has different strategies for dealing with those symptoms. And so that's what this is about. We need to start as therapists. There are a lot of chiropractors and physios and osteopaths who are joining us as well. So thank you for joining. And the message that I wanted to give to you is that we really do need to start changing the way that our patients think in order to change how they feel. And so we need to start thinking about what's going on in their minds and their thought patterns, and teaching them that they do have control over this overall perception of how they feel and how they react to situations around them. And so this webinar is for you if you're someone who is suffering from chronic pain or fatigue, or if you have patients who do, or lack of motivation, or if you want to become a better communicator or have better rapport with your patients or clients. And this is great if you've been through everything and nothing seems to be working for you. Then you want to be, listening to this and trying out these techniques and practicing them. Now, definitely this is not going to work for you if you believe that medication is the only way and that we don't have control over how we think, or if you really believe that people can't change. So what we're going to go over today are a few techniques that you can start practicing straight away that will give you some instant relief by decreasing your stress. What we're going to do is learn how we can tap into our parasympathetic nervous system by doing some simple techniques that you can use anywhere, and you can start practicing this. And these techniques also help with your communication. And we're going to talk a lot about the emotional connection to pain and techniques that we can use to kind of clear those emotional blockages. And so I'm going to start with one patient that I worked with, and she originally came to me with for Pilates. So she had 3 kids, and after having her 3rd child, she just wanted to get fit again. And so that's what she was initially coming to me for. But she was on lots of pain medication and anti-anxiety medication that she'd been taking since the age of 9. She was diagnosed with psoriasis. She had chronic joint pain. And so we actually started to work on that. And what we found just through one session of EFT, which is a tapping technique we'll talk about in a moment, just in one session of maybe 10 or 15 minutes, we realized that all of her symptoms had come from a specific trauma that happened to her when she was 9 years old. And it was something that was so small that she didn't even remember it until it came up while we were doing this tapping exercise. And just by recognizing that, she started to feel a lot better. She sleeps through the night. She understood where the lack of sleep was coming from, and that was the whole reason for needing the anti-anxiety medication. And so just in that one session, it completely changed everything for her. Now, I also had another patient who came to me after tearing her left hip labrum, and she had chronic neck and right shoulder pain. She also had psoriasis, and we instantly started working on a breathing, meditation, and visualization fusion. It's one of my specialties within the method that really helps you when you're actually having your pain. So she was in a lot of pain, and I wanted to give her relief that she could have right away. And so we started doing this, and she noticed immediately that she had control over her stress level, and she realized that the stress was what was causing the neck and shoulder pain. So by being able to completely control her stress, she was able to control that neck and shoulder pain, and it was gone. And we were able to work on posture exercises and other things that she would never have thought about doing before. And she now continues to use the breathing and visualization because she's completely back to her sport. She skis, she runs, she's hiking. We're in the mountains here in Switzerland, and she's really back to her normal life. She even carries the baby on a backpack when she goes hiking. And so, but she uses these methods just to keep herself going. Now, I can tell you there's so much research on all of this, whether it's meditation, whether it's breathing, the EFT that we're going to talk about in a moment. So if any of you want some specific research to back any of this up, I can just contact me by email, and I can send that out to you. And so I just wanted to ask a couple of questions. Are you open to learning new techniques that can help relieve pain? And are you ready to learn these quick and simple ways to change your bad habits and negative thought patterns? And I'd like to get into that Megginson method now. And so first off, what is the Megginson method? So it's a combination of many techniques that I have learned over many years. It's been about 20 years that I've been a physio, and specifically I worked on them on myself when I wanted to avoid surgery, and I was in a lot of pain, and I didn't want to take pain medication. I was breastfeeding at the time, and so I didn't want to take pain medication, and I absolutely didn't want to have surgery. And so I started trying out these different techniques, and I came up with this method, and it's specific techniques used in a specific way for different things. And so I work on 3 levels. We're going to talk about the mind in this webinar, but there are 3 levels. The first being the mind, because I really feel that if we can sort of clear those emotional blockages, which we're going to talk about in just a moment, that clears a lot of the pain and symptoms that we're having, and how we sort of perceive those, and you'll feel already so much better, and you'll feel that you're able to do more. And then I also talk about nutrition and functional fitness, doing the right types of exercise for your condition, as well as eating the right foods. Now, why is it different, and why does it matter, this starting with the mind? Well, you have these emotions and mental blocks that trigger emotional blockages. So every time something negative happens in your life from the time you're a child, it gets stored in your subconscious, and it gets triggered every time something happens that sort of reminds you of that negative time. And so these little series of events just kind of get compacted and compacted. And then when you have an injury, you have these triggers that create emotion in you, and that changes how you perceive that pain or the headache, whatever symptom you're having. It changes and heightens your perception of it. And so that's why some people react so badly, and they really feel helpless. They feel that they can't go to work. They can't sleep at night. They can't breathe. They're in so much pain. Where other people don't have that same level of emotional connection to the pain, and they feel the pain, but they can still get on with other things. And so what we work on is a specific technique to clear those emotional blockages. And you'll find that other stuff comes up, different events and that sort of thing. And one question that I want you to start thinking about while we're going through this webinar, and just continue to think about this, is when was the very first time you felt the symptom that you feel now? If you're someone who's having chronic pain or chronic fatigue, Can you remember the very first time you felt that way? And it might not be your actual condition. Maybe it was a time when you were younger that you actually felt this exhaustion or, extreme pain or something like that. Start to think about that and see how you felt during that time and what else was going on at that time. And what we do is we go through a tapping series of tapping on different points. What I did was I sent you a video on EFT, a how-to, and I want you to use these thoughts during that video when you watch it. For those of you that are watching on Facebook Live, you'll want to send me your email address and I'll be able to send that video to you because the others have registered. So if you've registered, then you've already received it. And that goes through step-by-step how to do the tapping exercise that I'm talking about. So by doing that, we end up with a clean slate. And we don't have all of these emotional triggers that make us feel worse. And then we can start working on techniques to build a stronger, more positive mindset, to get rid of these bad habits. And in effect, we create a healthier lifestyle. And it's almost effortless because we're working on all the bad stuff that we do in our heads that make us not do the right things, because we all know what we should be doing. We just don't seem to ever do it. And that's why weight loss is such a big thing. And chronic pain and chronic fatigue are huge things where people, you guys know, are not feeling better. They're not getting, complete relief. And so we start at the very beginning and clear out all of those emotional connections so that we can start to build more positive habits. And so if you're a therapist and you are watching this is something that's going to really help you develop your therapy business, because when people have been suffering for a long time and they actually get better and you find that technique, that just helps them, because this is something that they'll be able to use for the rest of their life to help with their symptoms. They want to tell everyone. I can tell you all of the patients that I've helped, they're so happy and so excited because they finally have that solution that makes them feel better and they have control over their symptoms. And so you'll find that you get more clients recommended to you, and your clients keep coming back because now they're doing more things. They're, doing more sports. And so they're creating other injuries and they're coming to you for that because you really help them. And so this is really 90% about transformation of yourself by finding those solutions for your chronic pain and your chronic fatigue, so that you're actually moving on and doing better things in your life because you have the time and the energy and the focus, because you're not focusing on just trying to feel better. And it's just 10% about my formula. And so that's what I want you to understand, that you really will change so much about your life through these different techniques. So earlier you said that you wanted to be a better communicator and you wanted to have better control over habits and motivation and just to feel better. And for those of you who are therapists, you want to find that solution that's going to help those patients that just never seem to get any better. And they've been coming forever and they've been to lots of different therapists and nothing seems to be working for them. And so what I wanted to do was start by giving you just a few tools this evening to practice. And this is really just scratching the surface. So the first thing is the EFT. You have the video. If you don't have the video, please send me your email and I'll send it out to you. And it gives you a step-by-step. And you're basically tapping on different points that are the ends of Chinese meridians. And what we're doing is clearing these blockages of emotions. And there's a specific method to it. It's too long for me to talk about in this webinar, but you want to specifically think about your symptom that you want to work on. So if you're having headaches, chronic headaches, or if you're having chronic back pain, then you want to think about that pain and you want to think about the time that you felt it the most and think about that event, and you'll start tapping on that. So you'll know what I mean when you're watching the video. So that's the first technique that I wanted to give you guys to start to practice. Now that's a very difficult one to do on your own. So I want you to give it a go and try it out, but it is something that you want to do with someone. And so I do recommend getting in touch with me if you want to work on that. The next thing is breathing. So I was going to give you a simple breathing technique that you can start practicing now. Now, this is really just starting very basic, But one way to tap into what's called your parasympathetic nervous system, for those of you who don't know, sympathetic is this fight or flight. It's when we're feeling stressed, when we've got to get something done, when we've got a deadline, or when we're feeling anxious about the pain that we're having. Our heart rate is up, our blood pressure is up, and most of us in modern time live in our sympathetic nervous system. We're like this all day, and we feel like this is normal. And we're drinking lots of coffee and all of these stimulants. And what you really want is to tap into your parasympathetic nervous system, which brings all of that down. And that's instant de-stress. It's your calm, level of calm. And so that's what we want to tap into. And a way to instantly do that is to breathe into your belly. So you bring both hands onto your belly and you breathe in, expanding your belly like a balloon, breathing into your hands as much as you possibly can, and then you hold on to that just for a moment, and then you want to breathe out of pursed lips, so like you're blowing out birthday candles. And by doing this, you're able to exhale for a longer period of time. So again, you breathe into your belly, and then breathe out through pursed lips. And you want to make as long and sustained a breath as you can. And I would recommend starting with 10 breaths every night before bed. And what that will do is cause you to de-stress, but it's also going to help you sleep better. So by getting better sleep, you're instantly going to wake up feeling better. But by practicing this breathing technique, you're going to realize that you can use this anytime you're having pain. Now, again, this is very basic. This is not my method. This is just one small portion of it, but I want to give you something that you can start practicing. So start doing that every night, 10 deep breaths, breathing into your belly, breathing out through pursed lips. And then the last technique would be visualization, where we visualize breathing out the pain. So right now, I just want you to think about your pain and think about what it looks like to you. I know it might sound ridiculous to some of you, but do it anyway. You're here anyway, so you might as well. So at some point, whether it's right now or later on this evening, you want to close your eyes and just think about your pain and what color is it? Does it have a texture? What size is it? How does it feel? If you could touch it, what would it feel like? Really give it a structure and think about that and visualize it. And when you're breathing out, you want to feel that you're breathing out that whatever it is you see, whether it's black smoke or whether it's a liquid sort of, whatever you see, you want to feel that you are getting that out of your body with every exhalation. And again, this is just scratching the surface. So I just want you to practice and play around with this. And again, please feel free to email me if you have any questions, comments, even if you think this is ridiculous. Send me an email and we could have a discussion about your specific symptoms and how this could benefit you. Now, again, this is really just something that you can practice safely on your own to give you some instant relief. But what I've done is I've created an 8-week program, and each week we'll meet for a 1-hour call. Typically we end up going longer. So I stay as long as people need me to. So we could even go an hour and a half. And I work with each of you individually with whatever condition you're trying to work on. Or for the physios and chiropractors and osteopaths, I have a separate 8-week program where we'll work on specific patients that you're working with and what you would use for those. And each week we work on a different series of techniques and we practice them and we work together, and then we have you practice for the week and then we get together the week after. So it goes on for 8 weeks. With that, I'll throw in my digital course, which has all of my online videos. It's a complete online program with a tutorial that talks you through everything, including a manual that you can print out. My individual perfection formula, which is my nutrition section. So that's going to help you with what you should and should not be eating and helping you with a whole diet plan. And also I'll be sending you a hypnotherapy audio download where you can download that instantly and start listening to that. And that's going to help you with pain management, sleeping better, and de-stressing. And those messages are really powerful because that's going to compact everything else that we'll be doing. And as a huge bonus, I wanted to offer each of you a private call so that we can work specifically on what your goals and what your problems are. And now, normally, if I was giving this away to clients separately, it would come to a total value of $6,000. However, I'm obviously not going to do that here. And so I'm going to offer it to anyone who's watching now. This complete program for 8 weeks for $14.97. And what I'd love to do as well, for those of you who are watching, is throw in an additional private call. So you'll get 2 calls. So I would recommend doing the first one sort of at the beginning of the program so that we can really knock out a lot of those emotional connections that you might be having and really giving you some solid help for your specific symptoms that you're having. And if you're a therapist, then we can really work on some of the patients that you might have questions about, so we can start working specifically on those patients. And then each week we'll be working on different things, and you'll find that this moves very quickly. You'll find every week you're working on something else because it works very well. And then I would suggest saving that second call for when you might feel stuck sometime throughout that 8 weeks, or you can even wait and save it for 3 months time if you feel like you're slipping out of using your techniques and you need a refresher. And so I'd like to offer that to anyone who's watching, and my assistant will be adding a link onto, you'll see the link, and so click on the link if you'd like to join, and I look forward to seeing you and working with you. And again, if you have any questions or comments, please send me an email, and I look forward to seeing you all soon.
Thank you for watching. Please share this video with your friends, hit that like button, and don't forget to comment below. I love hearing about your results. To receive more strategies on better balance of mind, health, and fitness, please subscribe to my YouTube channel.